So sometimes things get blown out of proportion. So, but basically, you know, it's appropriate to talk about the eclipse. Who's excited about the eclipse, by the way? Okay, everybody is. That's good. So, how many of you, so I've got some kind of nerdy factoids here to share with you. How many consider yourselves nerds? Any nerds out there? Ones that aren't raising your hand are lying. Everybody has an inner nerd, so I'm going to help you get in touch with your inner nerd here. How about that? So, a few little factoids. Let's talk about the sun for a minute, okay? A lot of you don't know this. Now, granted, you know, some of you who are very intellectually inclined and astrologically and astronomy inclined may correct some of my facts and figures here, but I pulled this off the bathroom wall of the internet, so it's got to be true. So, first of all, the mass of the sun is 330,000 times that of the Earth. And the sun accounts for 99.86% of the total mass of the solar system. That's mind-blowing to me. The radius is 432,288 miles, and as Bernie Sanders would say, that's huge. It consists of 73% hydrogen and 25% helium. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. It's very lightweight gases, yet it accounts for 99.86% of the total mass of the solar system. Interesting, kind of, I don't know, paradoxical in a way. Coronal mass ejections, which the sunspots and solar flares are caused from shifts in the magnetic field of the sun. So whenever the sun comes close to anything, shifts the field, solar flares come out and sunspots are created. The Carrington rotation of the sun is 27 plus days. It's like 27.3. So keep that one in your mind there for just a second. I'll reference back to that. Surface temperature is 99,941 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's a little too hot for a cake. The Earth is 93 million miles away from the sun, and that's something I learned actually in grade school. And it's 100 million miles away from the moon, and that's an average because obviously celestial bodies are always moving. And the sun moves through the galaxy in a corkscrew fashion. I don't know if anybody knows that. I mean, a lot of us think when in grade school we had this nice, neat little plate of a solar system, if you will, where everything was nice and neat and nothing was elliptical. There was all these perfect circles, but that's not how it works. It's actually a corkscrew. So all the planets follow the sun in a corkscrew fashion. And the sun follows the galaxy in a sine wave fashion. So that's where the Mayan calendar calculates the sun's travel through the galaxy. Okay, so let's move on to the moon. The moon is 27% the size of Earth, but its mass is only 1.2% of the Earth's mass. So something's strange there too. The diameter of the moon is 2,159 miles. The temperature range on the moon is anywhere from 273 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 243 degrees Fahrenheit. Probably not a place you want to go camping. The average distance of the moon from the Earth is 238,855 miles. And here's what I wanted to reference back to the sun. The rotation of the moon is 27 days. And it takes 27 days for it to go around the Earth. It's the exact same as the rotation of the sun. So there is some intelligent design, shall we say, going on there. A lot of us think it's 28 days are the cycles of the moon, but it's actually a little bit less than that. It's more like 27.3, 0.4, something like that. So during a total eclipse, the moon and the sun actually look the same size. I mean, tomorrow we're going to witness this, where from our perspective, the moon and the sun are going to be exactly the same size. Again, some intelligent design involved comes into play here. One thing that you're going to want to look at whenever you're 90 seconds prior to totality and 90 seconds after totality, if you put up a piece of paper, eclipse is up here, put up a piece of paper, and you will see these waves, a white piece of paper, should I say. You will see these waves that will come across your paper. Those are really interesting little waves, really little. And I'm not sure exactly what causes it, because I don't think the bathroom wall of the internet was quite accurate in that, but anyway. But be looking for that as well. So let me move on to something else here. So let's look at some of these other events. I'm getting to a point here that all these events that have happened throughout our lives and will continue to happen astrologically, in our own personal lives, within our country, within the world, all these events have some kind of effect on us personally. So how does that all translate? So if you look at, for example, some of the events that have happened in the past, like there was a big alignment of Mars, Saturn, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter in 2000. In May 2011, the triangular alignment of Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, and then again in 2015. Now, how many are astrologers in here? Do we have any astrologers? Nobody? Okay, good. You are? You just love it. Okay, awesome. So, good. Then I probably won't be getting my stuff, my astrological stuff, too messed up here. But then we had events like Y2K. Remember that whole shebang around January 1st, 2000, and the electricity was supposed to go out, and chaos was supposed to arrive. Well, nothing happened, But I do know, I can tell you this, my brother-in-law, who was pretty high up in the federal government as a civilian, he said that the federal government was actually looking at that and was actually doing things. They were flying him all over the country to try to get all these computers to where they would get reset and they wouldn't, shut down or anything like that. So they were actually putting some thought into it. So it wasn't just, oh, it's all a hoax or anything like that. So there was some actual literal stuff that had to happen in order to prevent that. But we'll never know, if there really was, something that was to that or not. And then, of course, we have 9/11, which, that was a big choice point for us. It was a big opportunity, shall we say. And, one of the things that I always said when I first witnessed that on TV, as many of you can probably picture in your mind what you were doing in that time frame when you heard or saw 9/11 happening. I think we all can say that. One of the first things I said to myself, because I had done some personal development work up until that point, one of the things I said to myself was, what is my accountability piece here? Not that I'm responsible for what happened, but what's my accountability piece? And, so I, explored that, because that was a huge accountability piece for us, not only as individuals, but us as a nation, us as a world population. So, and I'm not going to try to answer that for myself, or I can answer it for myself, but, for me, it was more about not paying attention. It was about not paying attention. If you just follow we're not going to get into conspiracy theories here, but if we just follow the fact that of what we've been told, which was 19 hijackers took planes and buildings. These are very desperate acts, and obviously desperate acts from people, they obviously are feeling desperate. Feeling of desperation creates desperate acts. So that's where my head went as far as the accountability piece. It's like, so why were they feeling so desperate? What is it that made them want to do that? So it's just some very big and deep questions. But let's go on to some other events, like the transit of Venus in 2012, the end of the Mayan long count calendar, which we were all waiting for. Everybody was waiting for the end of and then everything's going to be all fine after that, right? Yet at the same time, there were some people that were saying, yeah, well, just make sure you're keeping a calendar for January 2013, you know. So they weren't saying cancel all your appointments, but they were saying it was a big deal. And then we have Halley's Comet, of course, in 1986, Harmonic Convergence of 1987, Hale-Bopp Comet in 1997, and a lot of you know what happened there. Commencement of the Harmonic Convergence in January 2016, which was the starting of the age of Aquarius. So here we are. We sang about it in the 60s, and here we are. So let's look at some future astrological events. We have Halley's Comet returning in 2061. There's a rare planetary alignment of Mars, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and the Moon, wow, that will occur in 2040. Conjunction of Venus and Jupiter in November 2017, that's right around the corner, and a meteor shower in December of 2017. 120 multicolored meteors per hour. Yeah. So that's going to be cool. So let's look at, so all these have some sort of an effect on our lives, and we really don't even understand. Sometimes we get messages, and sometimes we heed those messages and actually take action in a different way. We step into the world in a different way. We wake up in a different way sometimes, and then sometimes we don't. So what's all that about? We get messages, so sometimes there can be this huge paradigm shift that's happening outside of us because we're getting these messages, but we're not switching the paradigm internally. When we switch the paradigm internally, that's when we can really move in and take advantage of and embrace the opportunity of the paradigm shift that might be happening without us. Now some of you may think, well, the paradigm shift happens within us and then happens outside of us. But what I've been seeing is that sometimes people are presented with a paradigm shift and it doesn't happen. So I'm going to give you some examples of that. But first, before I do that, I have a little story for you. So there's a story that, and this is a semi-true story, shall we say. So there was one time we had some possums on our back porch. And the possums, you know, were just running around the back porch, and I'm like, oh wow. So one of the first things, you know, a lot of us do, we'll refer to the medicine cards, right? We see a possum comes into our presence, whether it's dead on the road, unfortunately, it would be possum in reverse, or, you know, possum on our back porch. Possum on our back porch, but, you know, that'd be a positive message, shall we say, of possum. So a lot of times we'll go and we'll do something like this. We'll go ahead and pull out possum, and some of you are familiar with the book Animal Speaks. That's another book that we often reference. So for possum, it says, if possum is turned up in your cards, you are being asked to use strategy in some present situation. Rely upon your instincts for the best way out of a tight corner. If you have to pretend to be apathetic or unafraid, do it. So that's just a little synopsis of possum. So the next day, run into raccoon. Raccoon's running all over the back porch. So raccoon is the generous protector. And so I obviously have to get my medicine card book out and see what raccoon is. So, I mean, I might have gotten the possum message, but now there's a raccoon message. So I got to pay attention here, right? So, if raccoon wandered into your cards today, a little bandit may be telling you to look around and see who needs your strength at this time. Speak up in defense of another instead of remaining silent when others are gossiping. So there were two messages on two completely different days. So I walk out onto my back porch and I notice that I keep a container of cat food out there. And the cat food was gone. So I realized, okay, my message is not all that, but it's actually that I forgot to put the lid back on my cat food container. So, sometimes the messages that you get from, very esoteric and ethereal books aren't necessarily the message of the day. It's very third dimensional. Put the lid on your cat food container. So that's your message for the day. Thank you very much. So I want to talk to you. By the way, I have recently, as of July 29th, have retired. I no longer have a job, so to speak. So I call it semi-retirement, and the reason why I call it semi-retirement is because I worked in retail for 40 years and feel like I got run over by a semi. But there were some things that, came into my awareness that allowed me the ability to do that at the age of 58. I'm not collecting Social Security or anything like that. So one of the things that came into my life, which was something that, it was one of these watershed moments. It was one of these hitting rock bottom moments. We all have those moments in our lives, but sometimes what looks like my rock bottom may not be your rock bottom. And you may perceive me to be hitting rock bottom, but instead I'm still going on, business as usual, and then I hit another rock bottom, and then some people will say, well, Chuck's really ready to change now, And that doesn't always happen. I mean, I'm sure you've witnessed it not only within your own lives, but in your family's lives, friends' lives, things like that. So in my retail career, I was managing a retail consumer electronics store. And I was working, now this is not the one I owned, because some of you know that Thea and I owned a Radio Shack up the hill here in Highlands from 2003 to 2009. That was also during the same time frame that we were music ministers here. So we had sold that. Later on, I get involved in consumer electronics again, managing a store. So I was working 70 hours a week. Stress level was through the roof. And also, I saw no light at the end of that 70 hours a week. The company was cutting payroll, which meant I had to work even more hours. I was making the same amount of money that I was making 25 years ago in the same industry, working less hours. So something hit my brain really hard, and I was also noticing some ill health effects from it. I said, I have got to do something different. I have got to, because this is going to kill me, literally. So I put prayers out to the universe. Put these prayers down, and I said, I just want to be connected. I just want to be connected with a company that has integrity and cares about people. Because I knew if that was in place, the rest would take care of itself. Within 30 days, I came in contact with that company. It wasn't, okay, let me back up a little bit. It wasn't what I thought it was going to look like. So most often, what I'm saying to you is most often we put intentions and prayers out to the universe and expect, some of us expect an answer back, right? That answer back is not always what you think it's going to be. So the answer back is like, okay, what are you going to do with this? So when the answer comes back to you, and it's like, most often what we will do, if it's not what we think it's supposed to look like, we'll push it away, won't we? How many of you have done that? Yeah, I'm holding my hand up too. I've done it. So when we push it away, we're not honoring the medicine. You're not honoring your prayers. You're not honoring yourself. not honoring your intentions that you put out when you push it away. Now sometimes you may go ahead and say, okay, this is what Spirit is telling me. I'm going to give this a shot. I say give it a shot. And if something doesn't feel right to you about it, you can always back out. Just depends on what it is, of course. Maybe it's scuba diving. If the Spirit tells you, I think you need to go scuba diving, because it's a very I've not been scuba diving, but I can imagine it's a very spiritual experience. I can only imagine. Any scuba divers? Okay. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Spirit may be telling you to do that, but then, you may encounter a shark and you say, I'm out. So, but my point is to give, what I used to tell my kids when they were growing up. They sit down at the dinner table and say, I don't want to eat that. I said, okay, that's fine if you don't want to eat it, but you have to take a try bite. So, take a try bite, whatever that looks like. Because I guarantee you there's that level of excitement and a level of fear. And oddly enough, it feels kind of the same in your body. The fear, the excitement, the anxiousness kind of feels the same. So I say go with it and see what happens at the end of that, or what happens in the process of that. Sometimes it's all about starting the journey and then the journey. But we have to start the journey. So, to give you an example of that, and some of you may have heard this joke, but it's about the guy who's in a house by himself, and the floodwaters are coming. The floodwaters are out in front of his house, in the street. But it's not high enough that a car can't drive. So a police cruiser comes by, and he says to the gentleman on his front porch, he says, hey, the flood's coming, you need to get out of here. So why don't you hop in the car and I'll take you? And he says, no, that's okay, the Lord's going to take care of me. That's okay. Police cruiser pulls off. Waters are getting a little higher, and now it's up to his porch and starting to come into his house. A boat comes by, says, hey, the floodwaters are only going to get higher here. Why don't you come with us and we'll take you to safety? He says, no, that's okay, the Lord's going to take care of me. Next thing you know, he's standing on top of the roof. The water is that high now. Helicopter comes overhead and says, they yell down on the bullhorn and say, hey, catch this rope, we'll take you to safety. No thank you, the Lord's going to take care of me. Helicopter flies off. The man dies in the flood. He goes up to the pearly gates. And he says to God, Lord, why didn't you save me? I was asking for your help. Why didn't you save me? He says, well, I sent you a car, a boat, and a helicopter. What more do you want? So these are the things, sometimes we just need to pay attention. And sometimes it's really obvious. Maybe what may be obvious to me might not be obvious to you. There's also the joke of a guy hiking through the woods, and he comes across this cabin, and an old man's rocking on a chair, and he's got this hound dog also laying beside him on the porch. And the guy hiking, he hears this dog just whining and moaning like that, and just won't stop. And the guy comes up to the gentleman who's on the rocking chair on the porch, and he says, what's going on with your dog? He sounds, he doesn't sound right. He says, oh, he's just sitting on a nail. I'm like, so why doesn't he just get up? He says, well, I reckon it just don't hurt bad enough. So how many of us are sitting on a nail and it just don't hurt bad enough to make any change? So sometimes you don't have to hit rock bottom in order to make the change. It's just about paying attention to your own feelings, to your own spirit, everything that's going on around you, in order to snap that change in your life. But it does require action. The action is necessary in order to make the change. So the question is, okay, I'm getting this message to do this, so the question to yourself is, are you going to take the action necessary to move it fully into that? Some of us decide to, some of us don't. So where's the opportunity? Where's the opportunity in your life? So most often we're presented with problems, okay? Problems of maybe my deck's falling apart, or I need to replace the deck. It can be very third-dimensional problems. So then, instead of thinking, oh my God, I gotta spend all this money and replace the deck, what am I gonna do? Who am I gonna find to do that? I don't know anybody that does carpentry work, blah, 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 blah. So you run into these little cycles in your head, and it's a downward spiral, because it's not gonna solve your problem when you do that. So, problem, instead of it being a problem, where's the opportunity? So the opportunity may be, maybe I don't need a deck, maybe I just need a small porch. Or it may be that, when you stay in the field of possibilities, maybe somebody walks up to your door and say, hey, it looks like you need a new deck. I'm just in town for a little bit. I can do that for you and charge you a little bit of nothing. So where's the opportunity? So I know I'm going to get into a difficult subject here, and that difficult subject is, of course, politics.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes. But let me tell you something. When I I was in retail back when Donald Trump got elected in January, or inaugurated, elected, whatever he went, back in November, I guess it was. The very next day, all the customers coming into the store, and this is Asheville now. So Asheville is the progressive, the only progressive part of Western North Carolina, really. I think Jackson County to a certain extent, but Buncombe County, definitely. I never saw so many down and out people they were just, could not even speak. It was palpable when I was coming in contact with people. And it's like, yes, it was depressing for me too, but at the same time, it's like, okay, where's the opportunity? So where is the opportunity here? There are huge opportunities here. And when I started to think about it, I realized Donald Trump is our best president right now. In the grand scheme of things, in our collective conscious, in our country, he is the best choice. If Hillary would have gotten elected, or Bernie Sanders, we'd have fallen asleep. I'm sorry, we would have. That's the truth. Donald Trump is in your face. Everything that is up for healing for you, he represents the mass consciousness, the dark mass consciousness. There isn't anything that he doesn't represent about the dark parts of ourselves. He is a mirror for that. So it's up to us to take accountability for that and heal those parts so that we don't have to elect another Donald Trump again. That's our challenge. And it's not just me saying this. I actually went to a website, astrology website. One bathroom wall of the internet. And I'll read you some of what it says. By the ancient rules of astrology, the great American eclipse says the change begins now. Into the shadow. Eclipses are all about working with shadows. A solar eclipse is literally the moon's shadow falling on the surface of the earth. So essentially we're looking at the backside of the moon. The moon is shooting us the moon. So that's one way to look at it. We get a little kind of 8th grade humor there. Metaphorically speaking, eclipses are the moments when we must face our individual and collective shadow. That's what this is about. To allow us to find healing through a new level of understanding. Donald Trump was born on a lunar eclipse.
Wow.
Yeah. In this sense, Donald Trump was never the enemy of progress. He was the right man in the right place at the right time. In this sense, Trump is a man destined from birth to hold the projection of the collective shadow of our nation. This is big stuff. Really big. And I know you all feel it on some level. And this is one of the things I want to speak about whenever truth hits you. It hits you in your body. And it's really, when it comes to truth really, it's something that you already intuitively know. So truth in an essence is more of a reminder, isn't it? If it's something you intuitively know and I speak it, or somebody speaks it to you, and it hits you, oh, yeah, now I remember. Or I intuitively knew that already. So the destined from birth to hold the projection of the collective shadow of our nation, so that we can clean up our shift. I changed the word. Clean up our shift and move on to the next phase of our history. He's holding up a mirror to see what's broken within ourselves and within our society. He's a proverbial match that lights the bonfire, already stacked long before he arrived. Now it's our turn as a nation to ask these crucial questions. Who are we as a nation, and what do we want to become? It's all inside here. You know, what do we choose? We must break free of the curse of duality, the either-or thinking that's plaguing so much of our discourse at the moment. Rarely is life black and white, either-or. Dualistic thinking is what creates the shadow in the Jungian sense. We project our monsters onto the other, so we can avoid looking at the darkness within. Eclipses are the cosmic reminders that opposites can be complementary poles which attract one another. The eternal dance of yin giving way to yang giving way to yin. There are no winners and losers in this dance, only endless change. The foundational value of our nation is to empower each person to be able to pursue their full human potential. In other words, human flourishing. This eclipse is about us coming into our full human potential and flourishing. But we have to choose to step into that.